Thank you very much, Pace Your Time and Kobe. I'm here with Wild Turtle from Immortals. Wild Turtle, first off, I got to go back to when you guys ended up getting third place. What did that end up doing for you personally as a player after that? Because you guys had a 17-1 regular split. How did that affect you coming into this one?
I think it really motivated us to try a lot harder and not get complacent or anything like that, because we definitely got complacent closing into playoffs, and it obviously showed because we got 3-0 and we're pretty ignorant about the meta. And I think right now it just motivates us a lot more, and we don't want the same mistake to happen.
And you guys are taking a lot of measures to not become complacent in the future. Like, you guys actually talked a lot about not becoming complacent and kind of boasting about that a lot, saying we're not going to, underestimate any opponent. And now we have very different looking LCS right now. We're seeing teams like Envy and Apex actually pick up a lot of wins. So what do you think the state of the league is right now? Are Immortals still #1? And if so, who's close?
I would say the top 4 would be us, TSM, C9, and COG. I don't know what places what team will be, but that seems to be the top 4 for me. And actually, Envy has been playing really well right now, and Apex. So they're kind of like the wild card for me, and they can just do whatever they want, and they might pull a lot of wins.
All right, I got to ask you one last question here, Wild Turtle. The meta's still a little bit up in the air. We're seeing Ashe. We're seeing you pull out the Ashe Zyra lane in the bot lane sometimes. So what do you think is causing all of this change? Because we're seeing so many different things, like mages were updated, but not necessarily marksmen. So what is changing here, and why are you guys playing stuff like that now?
I think the meta has really shifted to bot lane's really, I think all the CC should come from bot lane mostly, and we could still play tank tops, but I think having a strong CC bot lane, or it's really hard to have a hyper carry or anything like that, because you lose lane if you get the hyper carry, and it's really hard to pull off the 2v1. But I really don't know how the meta is looking right now, but I think it's going to shift into more of either support carry or hyper carry type of thing.
So you guys think you have a better read on the meta right now, or nobody really has a read at all?
I really think it's up in the air right now. I don't know what the meta is going to be like, but we're just trying to adapt.
All right, thank you very much, Turtle. Once again, I want to thank you. Have a good one, and we're going to send it over to the analyst desk with Dash for a little more on that game.
Thank you very much, Zyrene. Immortals commanding 2-0 victory over Phoenix1 in that one. And this game in particular, around 26 minutes, that's a lot more what we expect out of this Immortals roster. It's more akin to that spring split Immortals where 15 minutes into the game, we saw a 2-0 lead, plus a dragon, and then 3 turrets rather to 0 on the side of Immortals. So accruing close to a 5K gold lead within 15 minutes that's
And it's how they did it too. It was very classic style where you see Reignover going top early, getting the flash out of Zig before getting a repeat dive up there later, and this whole time he's out farming the Elise. They're on a lot of their classic champions. Bot lane takes the turret by themselves basically before going mid and hitting an arrow, and the whole team's kind of firing on all cylinders, and there was a small hiccup. But
yeah, very small hiccup. Losing those 2 kills in the mid lane plus a couple turrets, but all in all, not something that they couldn't recover from pretty easily. And then with a nice Baron call, picking that up, going bot lane and finding the right fight so that they could end the game. Of course, maybe a little
I was about
bit.
to say, I don't know if that's quite the right fight where Reignover dies at the start, but
right. Well, that's the thing, right? So Reignover does die, but P1 gets a little overzealous in saying, well, we've got our 5v4, let's go for it. Of course, with Immortals coming out on top of that one, they are able to take the victory. Here is that final fight right now. Of course, Reignover's already dead, as you'll notice.
Sushi goes for the Shurima shuffle and just gets obliterated right away, and the rest of the fight just kind of clean up with the rest of the team re-engaging and diving past the turret.
I mean, it's one of those situations where it's tough to say whether or not that's the right call from Phoenix1, because you are in such a deficit that when you have that 5 to 4 man advantage around the inhib turret, that is maybe your best opportunity to take a winning fight. Had the Shurima shuffle landed on anybody, then perhaps you end up, picking someone off immediately. But, good adjustment, good positioning out of Immortals to win that 4v5 and then push in for the victory. I think for P1, this has kind of been that team that we're still a little bit uncertain about. We've got Zig making his LCS debut, Sentinel, the relative unknown. So for them, hopefully a learning experience having played against one of the best teams in the NALCS today. We'll see what they can take away from a 2-0 defeat against Immortals.
I think they can. There's a couple positives. We saw that there was some synergy in terms of making sure they know where they can abuse people. So like when they had that flash down mid lane, you know, Slushy and Sentinel got together and got a kill. And so I think the bigger thing is like if you get their early game figured out, which they seem to be most comfortable then, it's the later stages of the game that they need to come together.
All right, well, and of course, we speak about early game, and when someone like Rainover is in that game, who is going to be receiving our player of the game honors, that's when your early game kind of gets thrown for a loop, making the early presence in the top lane to blow that flash at level 2 out of the Trundle, and then making the return ganks as well as, at the same time, out-farming the enemy jungler. I mean, this guy returning to form a little bit.
Yeah, it's basically the quintessential Rek'Sai play where you have the early pressure, you use your tunnel network to get these like weird ganks off where you're coming from behind their walls, and then next thing you know, you're back in your jungle farming, you hit your 6, and you ult across the map, and you just end up everywhere, and it really plays to a player like Rainover's strengths because he's so smart, he knows where he needs to be at the map all the right times.
Right, yeah, very often we point to Rainover as the guy who kind of keeps Immortals on the right track in terms of their strategy game by game. He's very good at recognizing, as you mentioned, where he needs to be based on the composition that they've built and who needs to get ahead. So in this situation, you put Huni on the likes of Riven against a Trundle. If you throw 2 ganks into that top lane, now all of a sudden Huni's got some crazy control over Zig in that Riven Trundle matchup, and they can push forward towards the win. Again, that's going to do it for the games in the Battle Theater. So now we're going to send it to NALCS 1, where Echo Fox and Cloud9's Game 1 is already in progress.
Right now. So